ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa has denounced factionalism and power struggles inside the governing party. The president has been speaking on the last day of the ANC 13th Mpumalanga provincial elective conference in Mpumalanga. Mandla Ndlovu was elected chairperson, beating Lucky and Denisa by 440 votes. Ndlovu has been acting chair since 2017, replacing David Mabuza, who was elected ANC deputy president. Ramaphosa says internal ANC squabbles are hampering the party's ability to deliver services to citizens.
These distractions are infighting amongst us. They are the internal squabbles. They are the divisions amongst us. And that is what distracts us. Because it is when we do things like that that we lose our attention on what needs to be done. And they also revolve around contestations that are rooted in battles over access to power and access to resources. In the end, when everything is stripped down, I have found that our squabbles, our divisions, our fights are around those two issues. Power and access to resources. That is what we fight over. Now, if we want to lose the war, or if we want to lose the elections, the best thing that we can do is to continue squabbling amongst us. And we will lose power. We will lose the elections because we are focused on fighting amongst ourselves, instead on focusing on improving the lives of our people. The second is to drive reconstruction and recovery, to create jobs and to promote growth. We need nothing less than a capable, strong and united ANC. In Mpumalanga, in Limpopo, in Gauteng, in the Eastern Cape, and in all provinces, KZN, Western Cape, Northwest, all over the country. What we need is a strong, united African National Congress, where the leaders are not consumed by fighting amongst themselves for power and resources. The third is the most important of all, is we need the trust and the confidence of our people. Our people will never have confidence in us for as long as they see us fight amongst ourselves. For as long as they see us fighting over access to the resources that belong to them. Last month, the ANC's offices here in Mbombela, here in this province, were set alight by a disgruntled comrade. I do not wish to dwell on the circumstances, but that is a metaphor for the state of affairs of the ANC. It's a metaphor for the state of the affairs of the ANC that should not be lost on us. The house is on fire. And we are the ones who must put out this fire. And you as delegates here, you must put out the fire of divisions. You must put out the fire of corruption. You must put out the fire of everything that's going wrong in your movement. Last year's local government election results are just one of the indicators that our movement faces serious challenges. And I was interested to hear you speak in your commissions about precisely this, that the local government elections demonstrated to us that we are losing the support of our people.
Newly elected Mpumalanga Chair Mandla Ndlovu has reaffirmed the province's support for incumbent ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa to stand for a second term.
As the chairperson of the ANC, I'll always advise the president. It's my duty also to advise the president. That president, again I'm repeating, and this time around, if there will be any person that will misquote me, I'm ready to defend myself. I'm saying today in front of you, all of you, that the Comrade President CR, if there is a call from branches as a true cadre of this movement, President CR, accept that call. My president, please.
The ANC in Mpumalanga, as you know, is in the hands of a new provincial executive leadership with a new chair, Mandla Ndlovu, whom you heard there, installed in a decisive win. It is up to Ndlovu to drive unity and bond the party's fractious structures and turn around the cleavages left by his predecessor, David Mabuza. How significant is his win for President Cyril Ramaphosa's bid for a second term, and does it herald a new era for ANC politics in the province in the lead up to the crucial elective conference later this year? Political analyst Sandile Swana joins me now to tease out the themes and the schemes that potentially lie ahead, and also to put into perspective the Zuma Foundation's reaction to the recent SCA ruling and the aftermath of the ANC Women's League President Dlamini's conviction and sentencing on perjury charges. Sandile, good afternoon. Thank you for joining The Full View. There's a lot to get through, so let's jump straight in. How big a moment was Mandla Ndlovu's election win for the president?
I think it is very big. Thanks a lot, Iman, and your viewers. It is major in the sense that that particular province, interestingly and uniquely, it is the province that ushered Cyril Ramaphosa into power through the good offices of David Mabuza. And that province now today, Mabuza was not even invited to this elective conference. Maybe a sign that his prospects as deputy president going forward are not even there. So he delivered, but what he might have expected might not be coming his way. We might find a new face in the office of the deputy president as Cyril Ramaphosa cements himself and possibly cementing a new way of life in the ANC, aligned, more maybe favorably aligned to big business and those types of interests.
Well, here's the thing. One theory might be that the new reality in terms of the executive leadership in that province might reinforce the president's detractors, the president of the ANC's detractors, and they've got some months, of course, in the lead up to the national conference to reinforce their positions. Where then, or how strongly do you believe the president's sentiment expressed today at the close of that conference for unity, for overcoming the factions within the party are going to be? Is it going to hold any sway, or is it just platitude upon platitude?
The bottom line here, if you look at what has been happening in the many provinces, including the Free State and elsewhere, the people who are emerging and coming forward as new, fresh leaders are the people who were either openly supporting CR17 or people who over time have emerged as supporters of Ramaphosa in one capacity or another. And it is clear now that certainly resources, big business, billionaires and other types of people are in favor of Cyril Ramaphosa. So if you want to build a better future for yourself as a politician and as a business person, you align yourself with Ramaphosa. The aligning yourself with the RET forces at this stage is non-payable. There's no return on investment.
I mean, the next couple of questions are really going to go to, the reputation of the party. And so I want to turn it now to what we saw from the Supreme Court of Appeal dismissing former President Jacob Zuma's application to appeal his corruption prosecution. What they say is there's no reasonable prospect of success. That's what the SCA says. Some legal opinion seems to support the notion that were he to approach the Constitutional Court, again, it's unlikely his legal arguments would have any merit. So Is he running out of time as that trial is due to start next week? We know the Jacob Zuma Foundation is describing the ruling as vague, and to proceed would be a travesty of justice and a vindictive assault on our constitution. But they're going ahead on the 11th of April. His team is going to be in the Pietermaritzburg High Court with a clear mandate to ensure the protection of these inalienable rights and values enshrined in the Constitution. That's what their statement says. So all of those factors together, what do you make of their prospects there?
I think their prospects are close to zero because, you know, the other issue is that these judges will tell you that, look, if you have any problems, we will accommodate them in the trial court. There's no thing that we are not barring you from raising issues during your trial and other defenses in the trial itself. And when the judgment eventually comes out of the wash, we will demonstrate how we've considered those things. Then you can take them on appeal. But delaying the day of the trial and not going on trial on peripheral issues rather than the substantive issues, for which Jacob Zuma has said he wants his day in court many times over. And I think it's long overdue that it goes to court without further delay.
All right, let's talk about Sandile Dlamini, who now sits with a conviction and sentence for perjury. We know she's already pushed back against suggestions by Paul Mashatile that she step down. I know the ANC is going to say something about this tomorrow, but what course of action do you believe they should pursue against her, given the vagueness of the party's step-aside rules, which don't explicitly spell out what types of convictions would make the policy kick in?
Yeah, I think, for instance, Sandile Dlamini, now that her trial is over, there is no, she had the option of paying a fine, and she's agreed to pay the fine. So it's not a custodial sentence. She's not going to spend time in prison. So if you look at the IEC rules, for example, she will pass that IEC rules. So their case against her is going to be very difficult. And they are going to eventually have to say, just on the basis of image and other things, good reputation and other things, she must step down. But I don't think they've got a very solid case because of the way they've written the step-down resolutions rather than sticking to their own constitution. If they were just purely using their own constitution, they could get it. But the way they formulated the step-aside resolution, it's a problem.
Yeah, and that's where, as you point out, that's where the problem is, because maybe it does demand a refining of how that step-aside resolution has been framed. Because when you look at the reputational damage for the party in this whole saga, and Sandile Dlamini, as we know, this is a repeat situation that she finds herself in the aftermath of the Travelgate scandal, which also handed down, a similar censure with a fine and imprisonment. It is time, would you agree, or what is your opinion on whether that does need refinement for the sake of the face of the party?
Yeah, it does need the refinement. But you see, the biggest challenge that you had, and I think Cyril Ramaphosa tried to address these things in his closing remarks in Mpumalanga. They've had a long culture that they've cultivated, especially as we have come to know them since 1994, where they run the ANC without considering the constitution of the ANC. They run the country without considering the constitution of the country. And then they just allow themselves, over the years, they've allowed themselves to commit offenses upon offenses with impunity. And that is the problem with people like Sandile. They were brought up by the ANC inside, but Sandile is not that old. So what she knows about the ANC, she learned between 1994 and now. That is where she matured. She matured in a place of impunity, and she's continued with that impunity. Now, to win those children of independence, of the independent post-1994 ANC or the post-1990 ANC, of this impunity is going to be very difficult. They do need to be retired. They do need to be removed from the structures of the ANC, and people who are truly professional actually installed.
So, read together, the inherent and toxic factionalism within the ANC, which the president just referred to now, the conduct of its executive members, their declining performance at the polls. We saw the first time the ANC support falling below 50%. How should they be viewing their survival in an era where the focus seems to be more on managing in a conflict than the bigger picture of a country that is facing multiple simultaneous crises?
Yes, it's an interesting framing of the question. Clearly, when we listen to Cyril Ramaphosa standing up, probably we're less concerned. Maybe 90% of our attention is about when is it going to fix EXCOM? When is it going to fix PRASA? Those things that affect our day-to-day lives and so many failing municipalities. But from his point of view and from how he gets to his bread and butter, a good and successful ANC is very important for his career and the career of his comrades. And that machinery that has brought them into power is collapsing, and they cannot do anything but to fix it. They do, from their point of view, they've got to fix it. And hopefully, if they had a very strong, and we hope they do, a very strong civil service, that civil service could be busy with the issue of turning up around the affairs of the state. And that remains to be seen.
Well, let's turn our attention now to the SACP, who's warning that the ANC risks losing the 2024 national and provincial elections. At the same time, it says it's got no plans to break away from the tripartite alliance. Instead, it's calling for a structured reconfiguration of the alliance. Sandile, how do you interpret the meaningfulness of the existence of the SACP, both as a political ally and even as an autonomous entity?
There are many people, especially those who belong to the Marxist-Leninist perspective and other Marxist thinkers, who think the South African Communist Party abandoned communism long time ago, abandoned socialism long ago, abandoned Marxism long ago. And there are many who will tell you that the Marxists, generally speaking, have no reference of success anywhere on earth. Therefore, they are irrelevant and they need to go back to the drawing board. The South African Communist Party and COSATU should have been the bulwark, the strongest force against corruption in South Africa and in the ANC. But instead, they joined in. So they are no longer relevant. They are not a relevant force of history. They are no longer a relevant force of our future in South Africa. They are totally irrelevant.
Yeah, I'm going to have to put you in the ring with the SACP at some point in the future. Sandile, thank you for your time this afternoon. Appreciate your analysis. Political analyst there, Sandile Swana.